Thank you for all coming here this afternoon. I appreciate it. My name is Chris Becker. I'm the Kent County Prosecuting Attorney. Before I get with my announcement, I do want to publicly acknowledge the Lyoya family, their tremendous patience and understanding as this process has developed. It's been very difficult. The loss of a child causes unimaginable pain, stress, and the emotions they must be going through all of this. I deeply appreciate what they've done, especially some of their calls for peace and calm during this entire time. I think it's been tremendously beneficial for this community, and I can't say how much I appreciate what they've done in regards to that. I just had the opportunity to speak with the family, express my condolences, and tell them essentially what I'm just telling you here. I have prepared a letter in their native Swahili, because obviously this is difficult even under the best of circumstances, much less with a language barrier. So I had a letter. Really did an excellent job. He's done everything I requested of him, even on some of the follow-up, and so it's made a difficult situation obviously a little bit easier to have a partner that you can work with. Based on his investigation, based on everything he has provided to me, I've made the decision to charge Christopher Schurr with 1 count of second-degree murder. Second-degree murder is a felony offense. It is punishable by up to life in prison with the possibility of parole. As it stands now, this is merely an allegation, and as with any defendant, he is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. The elements of second-degree murder are relatively simple. First, there was a death done by the defendant, and then when the killing occurred, the defendant had one of these 3 states of mind: an intent to kill, an intent to do great bodily harm, or the intent to do an act that the natural tendency of that act would be to cause death or great bodily harm. And finally, that the death was not justified or excused, for example, by self-defense. Taking a look at everything that I reviewed in this case, I believe there's a sufficient basis to proceed on a single count of second-degree murder, and that charge has been filed with the courts as of today. Given that I filed charges, and we have all of you here today, the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct severely limit what I can say. I'm not going to be able to get into the facts, the circumstances, the decisions I made through this process. The Rules of Professional Conduct are pretty strict. This case needs to be tried in a court of law and not necessarily in public. So I will answer some questions. I can try and answer them, but I may not be able to given the rules that I have to face. This case will be tried in the court. One other thing for the local media who's here, I think they cover us quite a bit. They will notice that we did not file a felony firearm charge. Felony firearm is a charge, a separate charge. It's a 2-year that is added on to whatever underlying felony is, and we very often charge it when a gun is used in a homicide. We cannot do so in this circumstance. In 1991, the Michigan Supreme Court in People v. Khoury, Khoury, ruled that a felony firearm cannot be charged against a police officer who used a gun in the performance of their duties. So that is why you do not see a felony firearm charge, as is often the case under these circumstances. It is my understanding, I've been in contact with the Michigan State Police, that Mr. Schurr has turned himself in. He has been being processed. He will be arraigned in the 61st District Court in the city of Grand Rapids. It is my understanding that arraignment will take place sometime tomorrow. I do not have a specific time or date. That is up to the court. That is a function of the court, if you will, to take care of that. So that concludes my statement. As I said, I'll take some questions. I'll answer the questions that I can. I may not be able to answer all, and I'm just doing the questions here. I'm not going to do any individual interviews after this is all completed. So,
Dr. Schurr, did he talk to MSP? Did he sit down and do an interview with MSP?
I can't get into that. That would be a factual question in terms of that'll come out in court.
Mr. Becker, this incident happened on April 4th, so why did it take so long to come out with this charging decision today?
Hey, this is I just got the full report on the Tuesday after Memorial Day. So in terms of getting a complete report, I've only been, what is this, 8 days, 9 days after that. I mean, part of it was and it's not the Michigan State Police fault, it's getting the taser report, the forensic report from the company. And, things take time, and I want to be obviously thorough. This is obviously a major decision. We've never had to use a room like this for a case here, so it's just wanting to be thorough and go over everything. But I never got that, the full report until about 8 days ago, so I don't think this is outside the bounds of what we normally do. We have cases that sometimes takes months to charge. I have a case going on right now that took almost 6-7 months to charge. We make a decision when we have all the facts.
Mr. Prosecutor, you had said you wanted to talk with some experts
Mhm.
in your deliberation in this case. Can you give us a hint of who you talked to? Were they use of force experts? Can you tell us who you used as sounding boards?
There were use of force experts. I'm not going to get into my witnesses in terms of the case, but I know that came up in one of the questions in terms of the Michigan State Police. I did request the Michigan State Police, ask them if they could maybe give their expertise, but there's an issue in terms of they are kind of the fact finders, and then trying to ask them to be opinions on top of the fact finders. We were a little bit uncomfortable with that, so that's part of the reason I went kind of outside, because that's been one of the things I've heard is why not use the Michigan State Police. So we tried to use them, so we went outside of that, and you'll find out about them as this case progresses.
Chris, 2 questions. One, do you think that this case should be prosecuted in Kent County, given how much attention it's gotten? And 2, will your office be requesting that he not be given bond, or are you fine with having him released?
Two questions. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be tried in Kent County. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know where else is it going to be tried. I mean, this is not like, only Kent County media is here today. So we've handled high-profile cases, very high-profile cases. I think I'm very confident with Kent County juries to look at the facts and kind of block this out. I've handled high-profile cases, so I'm not concerned about that. In terms of the bond issue, we don't get involved in bonds in our office. I don't know how it's done in other cases or other counties, but we're not at arraignments. I don't have the bodies to cover out arraignments, so that we have court services that comes up with a report. I can go into that, a praxis, if you will, and they come up with a, prior history, mental health history, what the crime was, and they provide that to the judge. The judge makes the decision on bond. So that will be essentially a court function, and we generally stay out of it. I can't say every single time, but generally stay out of it in the vast, 99% of the cases.